We're going back in time like it's 1999. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 games Sony needs to include on the mini PlayStation Classic. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this one, we're looking at the games that helped define a generation on the PS1 and made us fall in love with blocky polygons, pre-rendered backgrounds, and yes, even load times. There were a few highly innovative games we would have loved to include, namely Ape Escape, but since the console won't be supporting DualShock controllers, we reluctantly had to leave a few classics off this list. Number 10, our top 10 PS1 games list.
Snake, there's an elevator there you can take up to the ground. You'll just have to wait for the elevator to come down.
This list was published back in 2014 and we still stand by it today, which makes it a quick way to mention more games we think should be on the PS Classic into one spot. Cheating? Hardly. There are 15 more spots to fill on Sony's nostalgia box, so we figured we'd give you a few extra entries free of charge. Sony has already announced that Final Fantasy VII will be on the Classic despite it getting a remake sometime soon, so it doesn't appear that plans to re-release, remaster, or even remake games exclude them from being included. That's good news for Resident Evil 2 fans and lovers of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Number 9, Crash Bandicoot Trilogy. As Final Fantasy VII proves, just because it's being re-released doesn't mean it won't be included. So, the addition of Crash is just a no-brainer. And why settle for one when we could have all three? He's considered the system's mascot after all, so he deserves special treatment. With last year's release of the Insane trilogy being well received on multiple systems, the original versions of the game could make for an interesting comparison for die-hard Crash fans. For people who aren't that die-hard and skipped the remastered collection, it would be a great way to relive the classic platformer just as you remember.
I have brought you here to recover the crystals before they do so.
Number 8, Final Fantasy Tactics. There's no such thing as too much of a good thing, so that's why we're adding another Final Fantasy title to the list in Final Fantasy Tactics. The game had more in common with the Fire Emblem series than it did with Square's traditional RPG franchise, so it's different enough to include without feeling too similar to Final Fantasy VII. It's also seen several re-releases, but that won't stop it from potentially being one of the highlights of the PS Classic and another RPG to help pad out the console's replayability factor. Number 7, Parappa the Rapper.
Are you ready, young one? I shall give you my best.
We'd be remiss if we left off the ultra-cute rapping puppy that helped introduce rhythm games to home consoles back in the late 90s.
Come on and bring it down!
Would we even have Guitar Hero or Rock Band today if Parappa hadn't rhymed his way into our hearts with his kid-friendly beats about cooking dinner and passing his driver's test? The sheer level of innovation this game brought to the PS1 back in the day is more than enough reason for it to be included on this list. But we really just want to hear Chop Chop Master Onion's track one more time.
If you wanna test me, I'm sure you'll find the things I'll teach ya. Be sure to beat ya. Nevertheless, you'll get a lesson from teacher. Now kick! Kick!
Number 6, Tomb Raider.
Welcome to my home. I'll take you on a guided tour.
Sure, it may be clunky to play with its tank controls and may look like a bit like a bunch of squares, rectangles, and circles dancing together in unison, but it's often cited as one of the best video games ever made. It was one of the first titles to introduce us to huge 3D worlds, and it gave us one of the most memorable characters in all of gaming, so there's no way we couldn't include it. Try to imagine the video game landscape without Lara Croft. Go ahead, we'll wait. You can't! And with Shadow of the Tomb Raider released just last month, what better time to revisit the title that started it all? Number 5, Medieval. This title is also getting the remastered treatment soon, but it would make a perfect fit on the PS Classic to allow fans of the series a chance to run through the original environments once more as Sir Daniel Fortescue before seeing the game upgraded on the PS4. With its quirky visuals based on Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas, and its gameplay inspired by role-playing adventure games like the Zelda franchise, it's the perfect mix of fun and adventure. Sure, the camera and controls will be rough, but that just comes with the territory of games released back in the late 90s. But it's also part of their charm.
A coven of the warty old hags lived here once. Unholy fires burning all night while they brewed up unspeakable muck in their cauldrons.
Number 4, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This entry in the beloved Resident Evil series was designed to be more action-oriented than the first two, but the addition of the raging, hulking Nemesis was more than enough to absolutely scare the bejesus out of us then, and now. We're sure we're not the only ones who continually thought we were hearing the word stars coming from outside your bedroom door in a monstrous growl while trying to sleep at night. Yet, we continued to play and love this title anyway. Sleep be damned. It also saw the return of Jill Valentine and continued her story from the first entry.
We'll have to finish this later. Believe it or not, we're only here to rescue the civilians.
Number 3, Dino Crisis. The same team that brought us the original Resident Evil series also brought us this classic series. Dino Crisis shares very similar aesthetics and gameplay elements to its sister zombie series. But unlike Resident Evil, this series has unfortunately gone dormant over the years. So if there ever was an ideal time to bring back Regina in all her dino ass-kicking glory, the PS Classic seems like a no-brainer. Plus, who doesn't love dinosaurs? Number 2, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. This game impressed a whole lot of folks who weren't expecting it back in 1997, receiving many awards in the process like the E3 Showstopper Award from GamePro, along with garnering much critical success. Sure, it's hard as hell, and only being allowed to save at greatly spaced out checkpoints makes it even harder, but hey, we love a challenge. And also, the plethora of game guides available for the title nowadays would surely help reduce some of the frustration that comes with the game over 20 years ago. Also, we get to see Abe's lovely face again, and that's one weirdly cute mug we can't get enough of.
I was Employee of the Year. Now I'm dead meat.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Number 1, Crash Team Racing. The fourth game in the Crash series took a slightly different approach to the now classic platforming gameplay of the first 3 entries. And we couldn't have been more thankful back in 1999 as PlayStation fans because we finally got our long-awaited answer to Nintendo's Mario Kart. Couch multiplayer is something we greatly miss in this current gaming age, so the fact that the PS Classic comes with 2 controllers makes this the perfect entry on our list. We can't wait to sit down with friends in battle mode and beat the hell out of one another as Crash, Coco, Dr. Cortex, and the rest of the gang. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.